Greetings. I'd like to call to order the 19th regular meeting of the Board of Directors of SAD 52, and I would like to multitask and lead folks in the pledge as well. Our first order of business will be to act on the minutes, several sets of minutes actually. The first would be the minutes of the 18th regular meeting, and that was May 19th. Any errors or omissions on that one? Moving on to the first emergency meeting, and that was May 24th. Any errors or omissions on that one? And thirdly, the second emergency meeting of May 26th. Any errors or omissions on there? Seeing none, we'll accept those three sets by general consent. That brings us to communications. Kim.
I'd like to report the following resignations. Danielle Gagney, district-wide speech-language pathologist, effective the end of this school year. Claire Parker, Leeds Central School Administrative Secretary, also, effective June 10. Mary Beth LaRoche, Tripp Middle School, Ed Tech 3, effective the end of this school year. Neil Ryu, Leavitt Area High School English teacher, effective the end of this school year. And Neil Ryu again, and his role as the head cross-country running coach. And Theodore Johansson Jr., Leavitt Area High School JV soccer coach, effective June 1st.
Thank you. Any adjustments to the agenda?
Just one, the word none next to 5.4 did not make it onto the agenda, but there is. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to committee reports. Finance, Yuri.
We did not meet this evening.
It's not met. PTB, Jessica.
We did meet. We did meet tonight. We reviewed several of the outstanding projects that we are working on as a district. So water testing update, I think it was mentioned at one of our previous meetings that that deadline has been extended. So our district's taking that time to be proactive and replace and identify any fixtures that may have been put in before 1986. And a wastewater treatment plant. We are still doing some bi-weekly meetings with Wright Pierce, and it looks like we're getting closer to being back on schedule with that project. Update on our school bus purchases. We are still planning to have 2 new school buses for fiscal year 23, one through our grant funds and one through our general budget funds. And then we had a nice presentation again on updated plans for the TMS kitchen and cafeteria.
No, Curriculum Policy Committee.
We have not met. We have a scheduled meeting that may need to be rescheduled, so stay tuned for that.
Since there are no administrator reports, I'm going to just let Kim keep the microphone as it moves by.
All right, thank you. Adult education graduation happened on May 27th. I see Brian back there nodding, which was last Friday. It was an absolutely wonderful event. Director Brian Brito and his staff did a superb job of honoring graduates and providing a truly celebratory evening. Many nice words spoken, a lot of smiles, and beautiful flowers all along. So it was absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Brian, for that. The Leavitt Area High School graduation is on Sunday, this Sunday, June 5th at the Coliseum. We are looking forward to celebrating our seniors and their many accomplishments then. So for a long time now, I've been reporting on COVID data. So I've got some of that for this evening. The level of community transmission in Androscoggin County has gone, it was low for several months there. On May 19th, it moved to medium. As of yesterday, it is in the high range. So again, high range. Number of vaccinated students remains the same at 50 to 54%. Vaccination rate by town all remain the same, 65% in Greene, 63% in Leeds, and 67% in Turner. Number of positive cases in Greene Central School since May 19th would be 28, Greene Central School, 1 at Leeds Central School, 4 at Turner Primary School, 3 at Turner Elementary School, 14 at Tripp Middle School, and 4 at the high school. We are, as you know, no longer doing the pool testing, but we do have numbers for total hospitalized, 191, in critical care, 28, and on ventilators, 3. The trustees of Levitt Institute held their annual meeting on May 26th. For many years now, the trustees have funded teacher requests for field trips, equipment, special experiences, books, and supplies to offer students opportunities beyond what the general budget supports. This year, slightly over $100,000 worth of requests were made for the trustees' consideration for next school year. Requests included things like support for the Arts Gala, theatrical experience, video production. I look at you, Jeff, but you might not be involved with that. Latin club field trip, books for French and Spanish courses, a PE hiking field trip, the math team, and esports, among many others. But I want to point out that this is not unusual. This happens every single year. So there is wonderful funding from the trustees every single year, and that's beyond money they put towards scholarships for high school seniors as well. We had a recent bus inspection on May 25th, and overall it was very good. The Maine State Police were very pleased with the preventative maintenance program that the Transportation Department has put in place. I'd like to thank Chip Gilbert in particular for that work in keeping our fleet in good shape. And we have several employee nominations for the board this evening. I am extremely happy with the skilled professionals that we are nominated to join our team. And you will meet at least one of them this evening. There we are. Hi. One of them this evening. So we've got some great nominees this evening. And the board recently approved the schedule of board meetings for the 2022-23 school year. This year, all board meetings have been taking place here in the high school auditorium due to the ongoing pandemic. I do believe that it is the board's intent to rotate to the different schools for next year. So I have an updated schedule that just shows the rotation of those different schools, and that is the one that will go on to the website. Another thing to note is that normally we have the annual organizational meeting in June. However, this will be moved to the first board meeting in August, and that's when we'll have all of our board members firmly in place, and we'll have that organizational meeting at that time.
Thank you. That brings us to public comment, and we will proceed as we normally do with that. I think we have the microphone and sign-in sheet over there, and I will refresh everybody's memory on the process. Assuming we have some interest in that. Citizens and employees of the school unit are welcome to participate as provided in this policy. Others may be recognized to speak at the chair's discretion. Individual employees and/or employee groups will not be permitted to discuss matters for which complaint or grievance procedures are provided. The chair may limit the time allotted for comments on a particular topic, and that's as well as the time each individual may speak, and that's 3 minutes at this time. During the time set aside for public participation, the chair will be responsible for recognizing all speakers who must identify themselves as they begin talking. Speakers are not permitted to share gossip, make defamatory comments, or use abusive or vulgar language. All speakers are to address the chair and direct questions or comments to particular board members of the superintendent only with approval of the chair. Requests for information or concerns that require further research may be referred to the superintendent to be addressed at a later time. Members of the board and the superintendent may ask questions of any person who addresses the board, but are expected to refrain from arguing or debating issues. Questions must be addressed through the chair. No complaints or allegations will be allowed at board meetings concerning any person employed by the school system or against particular students. Personal matters or complaints concerning student or staff issues will not be considered in a public meeting, but will be referred through established policies and procedures. In order to make efficient use of meeting time, the board discourages duplication or repetition of comments to the board. The board requests that groups or organizations be represented by designated spokespersons. The chair has the authority to stop any presentation that violates these guidelines or the privacy rights of others.
You're all set?
I think I'm the only one.
All right.
So good evening. Originally, I wanted to just step up and thank Jimmy, who's not here tonight. He did a great amount of research and he issued everybody a nice packet that explained everything about the SEL and the CRT. And phenomenal job. Hopefully you all read it. If you didn't get a chance to read it or you didn't get a copy, I have one remaining copy. Very good. The other thing that I wanted to speak about very quickly was back a few weeks ago, we had talked about potentially having somebody walk through the school, whether it's an officer or a sheriff or whatever it happens to be, and help retain some of the bullying that we're having problems with, and basically put a handle on some of the actions that are going on within the school with the kids. That would also help refrain from some of the behaviors that potentially, I don't know if it's happening in the school classrooms themselves, but kids throwing chairs and things of that nature. If they've got an authority figure around them, they're going to be thinking a little bit wiser. And that being said, the tragedies that have been happening, I feel protecting our kids is our number one issue, and that's why all of us stand up here. And we've got to take some actions to prevent something like that from happening here versus saying it won't. So, thank you.
Anyone else for public comment this evening? If not, we will move on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion for the list?
So moved.
Yuri. Good. Second from Kathy. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to new business, and 9.1 is a presentation by R.H.R. Smith on the fiscal year 21 audit. And I would offer you folks the microphone and podium over there if you're most comfortable with that. And I think board members have printed copies of both the cheat sheet kind of PowerPoint kind of thing, as well as the larger, if you're suffering from insomnia version. Is that correct?
So I'm Trevor Backus, I'm from
Thank you.
R.H.R. Smith, and we did the audit this past year at the school unit. So just a general overview of the audit process. Usually lasts about 2 weeks, and it includes both a financial statement audit and a compliance audit.
Can you get a little closer to my microphone?
Yep. And so as part of the audit process, we determined that the financial statements were fairly stated in all material respects. And for the compliance audit, we tested their school unit's COVID relief funding and found that there were no issues with that as well. So the second page in this presentation that can be referenced in the full audit report as Statement C. And that is those numbers are as of June 30th, 2021. And some of the new funds the school has are the coronavirus relief funds, which are some federal grant awards. And then the Siemens Phase 2 fund is also a new fund. And then the other governmental funds include the remaining other special revenue and capital projects funds the school has. And then the third page goes over some of the asset accounts, and you'll see that the cash has increased at the school unit over the past few years. And that is due to increased revenue over expenses. And then in the third column, you'll see due from other funds, and that has increased significantly because of the increased grant activity at the school unit. And that is the amount of money that the grant funds owe your general fund. And that's why that number has increased so much. The next sheet goes over the school unit's liabilities. You'll see there's been a decrease in the accounts payable. That's because in 2020, there was a playground structure that was purchased near year end that increased the accounts payable that year. You'll see a large jump in accrued payroll starting in 2020. And that is due to a restatement that occurred that year. The school district had been building up their fund balance to cover the restatement of the accrued payroll going into that year, so that's why that increased so much there. The next sheet just shows the non-spendable and assigned fund balance for the school unit. And that is made up of the $555,000 the school unit intends to use to offset their budget in 2022. And it is also made up of prepaid fuel that the school had at year end. The next sheet goes over the school's unassigned fund balance. The school's unassigned fund balance has increased from the prior year by about 1.5 million, and that is because the school unit's revenues came in over budget and the expenses came in under budget. And the fund balance is about 13% of the budget. The school should aim to lower that amount towards 9%, so use more of your fund balance to offset your budget in years going forward, and that's been something the school's been working to do. They used $555,000 for 2022, but just continue to work towards that, getting that number down. The next sheet is Statement E in the financial statements. And it is an overview of the revenues and expenses for the year. And it shows what impacted the ultimate change in fund balance. The next chart shows what type of revenue the school received, and the majority of it was from intergovernmental, so that would be like state revenues, and then also money from the towns, local support. The next chart shows the breakdown of the overall expenses, and the majority of expenses were for regular instruction, special education, and facilities maintenance. And then the last sheet in this presentation shows the change in revenues and expenses from 2020 to 2021. And the school saw a 4.7% increase in revenues and a 5.8% increase in expenditures. And revenues were about 1.2 million over expenditures. And now if we look at the management letter. The comments on this had to do with purchase orders and student activities.
Is the management letter contained in this audit?
No.
That's, I didn't see that. Do you have additional copies of that?
No, they should have been included in the PDF that was
brief overview. So one of the comments was that purchase orders weren't used for all disbursements. And then the other 3 comments had to do with student activities. And this is kind of an ongoing issue, and it's something I know that the school's been working towards, making it so all the different schools have uniform procedures for their student accounts for deposits, bank reconciliations, and disbursements. So just making sure each individual school uses the same procedures for those transactions.
Questions from board members? If not, thank you very much. Appreciate it. That brings us to item 9.2, and that's instructional nominations. I'm going to pass this over to Kim to read through these.
Okay, the first one is for a Turner Elementary School teacher. Notice that is pending certification, which we expect to come in at any time. And Teresa Gillis, interim principal, writes that she and the interview team are thrilled to recommend Adriana Wilkinson for the position of elementary teacher at Turner Elementary School. She's a graduate of Leavitt Area High School and continued her education at the University of New England and USM as an athletic trainer. After working in the healthcare field, she began working as a 6th grade teacher. References describe her as enthusiastic and hardworking, a strong communicator who seeks out feedback. She was praised for her positive energy, and her supervising principal noted that she really gets through to kids. When I met with Adri, she goes by Adri, when I met with Adri, I was really impressed with the knowledge that she has as a relatively new teacher, and her enthusiasm and passion for helping students learn really was very clear. So we are very happy to nominate her to the board for Turner Elementary School teacher. The second one is for Leavitt Area High School English teacher, and Principal Shaw writes that he and the committee are very happy to nominate Laura Mazzola for the position of English teacher. He writes, we are very fortunate to have her return to the Leavitt community. She was a teacher here before. Kathy's nodding her head. Laura has been teaching at Noble High School since 2014 and comes to us highly recommended. Her references speak highly of her connections with students and her collaboration with colleagues. And Evan writes that he looks forward to having Laura back on the Leavitt faculty. The third is for a social studies teacher at Tripp Middle School. And Principal Mates writes that his name is Ryan. Ryan comes to us with 11 years of teaching experience, the last 5 of those teaching social studies at the middle school level. He is an MSAD 52 community member, which is we always love. And his current principal stated that Ryan is made for middle school, following up that he is also a wonderful resource for technology and mentoring new staff, as well as support for extracurricular activities. So we're excited to nominate Ryan this year. And then we have the list, 9.2.4, of the district-wide elementary summer academy 2022 teachers.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion for the list. Kathy and Crystal. All those in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous? Thank you. Always exciting to see new hires and hear their excellent qualifications. And I'm going to just use that as a segue to turn 9.3, nomination of Turner Elementary School Principal, over to Kim.
Thank you. So the search committee is extremely happy to nominate Dr. Kristen Levesque for the position of Turner Elementary School Principal. Dr. Levesque has 6 years of administrative experience, 4 as principal and 2 as assistant principal in RSU 38. She also has a strong counseling background, which we think will be very helpful. References describe her as amazing. She's a very hard worker who listens to staff and always looks to improve. I was told she will bring a lot of skill and a lot of good to your district. You're very fortunate. And Dr. Levesque is actually in the audience with us here tonight. Kristen, do you want to?
Hi.
Go, sure.
Hi, I'm Kristen. I'm super excited to be here, and I've heard really great things about the school, so very excited to join the district.
Excellent. So, do we have a motion? Crystal, do we have a second? Yuri? Yuri,
Oh, okay, thank you.
all those in favor? Unanimous. Welcome, Kristen. Thanks for joining us. Glad you could be here this evening as well. So now it's like officially official, which is outstanding. So I'm going to turn this back over to Kim for item 9.4, which is also exciting, and that's nomination of a Turner Primary School principal.
Thank you. The Turner Primary School Search Committee is also very happy to nominate Kimberly Fuller for the TPS principal position. Kimberly has nearly 6 years of experience as a principal and many years of teaching experience. In fact, she actually taught in grades 1 and 2 at Turner Primary School for several years in the 90s. Her references describe her as a strong student advocate who supports her staff very well. Her strengths include leading staff to use data to inform decision-making and instruction, and she has a good sense of people and provides the support needed so all can be successful.
Do we have a motion for this one? Crystal, do we have a second? Jamie? All those in favor? Unanimous. Fantastic. Well, it's pretty exciting to have great new folks joining us. 9.5 is other. Do we have any other pieces of business that we need to take up this evening? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Yuri, second? Crystal, all those in favor? Unanimous. We are duly adjourned. Thanks, everyone.